ladies and gentlemen, on between. Jason, my brother, how you doing?
Really good. Really good.
So I'm pretty damn stoked. How about you?
Uh-huh.
Couldn't ask for a better birthday present.
Right.
As you can see, wait, you want to see my birthday cake? Oh, I'm 55 today, by the way, people. Here's my birthday cake.
It's like a forest fire.
That one. So I just wanted to make sure, in case if there was any electrical issues with this show, I wanted to make sure that we had a Ford F-150 standing by, because it's saved this gentleman's time on stage before. So let's bring in the incredible Mr. Anthony Corder from Tora Tora. What's up, man?
Hey guys, what's happening?
Hey,
oh my God, I'm so excited to talk to y'all, man. Happy birthday.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir. That's awesome. Very awesome. Bringing in a milestone of 55.
Yeah.
And you helped bring in a milestone earlier in my life that you're probably unaware of. And it was this show at the Vic Theater.
Oh, yes, man. I remember the Vic. Oh, God. It was so fun. That's incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And what a great tour that was. Dangerous Toys, LA Guns, and Tora Tora.
Oh, my God, y'all. It was incredible. That was one of the first big tours that we'd ever done. You know, when we got signed out of Memphis, we had never traveled as a band. We got signed out of our hometown, Memphis, Tennessee. We signed a production deal with Ardent Studios.
Mm-hmm.
So if your audience is not familiar with Ardent Studios, please go Google that and look it up. It was a really famous studio. It was run by a gentleman by the name of John Fry. He became kind of a father figure to our band.
Mm-hmm.
We did a production deal, so they were kind of the middleman between us and the record label. And, you know, John was amazing, man. He was a mentor and a friend to me in a much bigger capacity than just being the singer for a band, just in my life in general. So I think about him all the time. I miss him dearly. He passed away back in 2014. But he was the guy that when the record deals came in, he took us in a room and set us down at a little conference table, you know, and he put a dot on the wall. And then he goes, "This is you." And then he drew a big circle around it. And he goes, "This is everybody who's going to be digging in your pocket." And we went, "Great, son."
Right.
We were like, "Did we get an opportunity to get in here and record and everything?" But he was a great guy. And I can't speak enough about the Ardent family there. Paul Ebersole, that worked on our first record with us. It was he and Joe Hardy. They produced the Surprise Attack record. But we met Paul first. We won a band competition.
Yeah.
Memphis was awesome back then because they had a lot of local support from the radio stations and the venues that you could do original music, which was really crazy. Right. And they had locals only features on the radio stations. We didn't have technology and stuff like everybody's got now. So your outlets were the radio and MTV back in the times we were coming along.
Yeah.
And so it meant a lot to have local support. And so there was a competition we won, and we got into Ardent. We were working on a little EP on our own, and we had been doing it at a home studio with a guy named Steve Howe. His studio is called Powerhouse, and Steve had kind of introduced us into becoming more unified as a group musically. Everybody was playing a solo. We were all little kids.
Everybody solo.
John had rototoms and stuff. He wanted to be Neil Peart. Keith was playing solo. Patrick thought he was, freaking Steve Harris from Iron Maiden. Right. And I was screaming the highest note I could hit. And he just went, "Hey, Aaron, chill out. We're going to groove." And we went, "What is that? What are you talking about?" He goes, "I'm going to get you locked in together, man. I'm going to help you." So we had kind of been doing those things with Steve. And then Ardent came along, and it was a whole nother level. I mean, they were super, it was a prestigious studio. It was famous already from the history of the studio. They had been around for a long time. John had started the studio at his family's house, excuse me, when he was a teenager. And he ended up getting very excited about it and involved with recording. And he ended up moving the studio over to National Street first. And when he moved in there, he did something very strategic and smart. At the time, Stax music was huge in Memphis. It was a record label. It was competing with Motown up in Detroit. Yeah. I think at one time it was the largest Black-owned business in the United States at one point. It was just gangbusters. But he bought the same recording equipment. And so he started catching the overflow, and some of those really successful producers were coming over. They were little kids, and they were showing them their miking techniques for the drums and how they were getting the sounds on the guitar and all that stuff. And he shared all that information with his friends as they were growing up and experimenting. So they would work in the daytime, and then they'd experiment in the studio at night. And so anyway, he kind of kept that that culture as he moved Arden over to 2000 Madison Avenue. If you go down to Memphis, and you wouldn't even notice it was there. It's just a brick building. Kind of, you wouldn't notice it. But anyway, inside those halls, everybody in the world came through there. I mean, when we were there, Stevie Ray Vaughan was there. Eric,
nice.
Greg Allman, the Leonard Skinner guys were there with Tom Dowd, who was a really famous producer.
Right.
REM had been in there. There was a bunch of them, man. For about 6 years, if we weren't on the road, we were down at Ardent driving them nuts, going crazy, walking in with sombreros on our head, singing, doing all kind of stuff. We drove them crazy, but we loved those people. So that's a really important part of the Tora Tora history, is for your listeners and viewers to know about it, because they had a huge impact on our life.
Yeah, and it's nice. I mean, I've seen you in interviews before, and you always mention them. And one thing that, like, you can always tell if a person's really thankful. You're always thanking the people that helped you, and like, you don't have to do that 35 years on.
Yeah,
but you still do.
Yeah, well, it meant a lot to us.
That's great, because if it wasn't for that, I do it all the time. People are like, you don't have to thank me. I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, man, they had a huge impact on us, and we're indebted to that community, Memphis. We love playing there. We're getting ready to do a show there April 6th at Minglewood Hall, and it's always fun for us to go home. We know everybody in the audience. It's like a homecoming, man. I look around the room and I go, man, I played football in high school with that guy, or I went to high school with that guy, or I almost went to jail with that guy, and I stayed out with that dude. And I look around the room, and it's just this community. And we were always of the mindset that we kind of wanted to be inclusive a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think we just wanted all of our friends to hang out, and we kind of all came from different backgrounds. Patrick and I, the bass player, went to one high school, and John and Keith had gone to another high school in the Memphis area. And we kind of combined all those people together. From the very first time we got together, we had all these different friends, man. It was everybody from, the party people to the sports people to the, redneck people to the whatever it was. And we kind of got that group of people together, And it was a little challenging when you were kids, you're kind of puffing your chest out, and everybody's, you're young and kind of full of everything. And some of them kind of didn't mix at the beginning, and they didn't like each other, but it was so weird, man. We watched it as they kind of got to know each other. They might have had their like little things between each other, but some of them became really close, and they're still friends to this day. They still hang out with each other. They built these big, long relationships from a long time ago, and that's pretty powerful. So that inclusive thing that we have is, we're just thankful, because that community launched us out into doing things that we never thought.
And that was like from the warehouse, right? We always thought that was the coolest thing reading about. Like, dude, what a great setup. What a bad problem to have. Hey, I got this warehouse.
Yeah, it was insane. First, it started down on State Line Road in Mississippi. Keith's family had a business, a glue factory, and we were just in there rehearsing. And that's when we very first started. When we were pretty young, still, in high school and stuff. And then as we were getting a little older, the guys in the band were a couple of years ahead of me. They were kind of already going to college, and I was still in high school. And we found out that Keith's dad had a spot in Midtown Memphis, and it was right next door to the Coliseum, where we went to all the concerts and stuff. It was crazy. And but it was a big open warehouse, and he was storing some 55-gallon drum barrels. They were empty in the building, and we said, hey, would it be okay if we go to the one in Midtown, to rehearse? And this second we walked in, man, we looked at it and went, oh my God, we got to throw a party. It was gigantic, man. It was huge. And so we took all those barrels and pushed them to one end of the building, and we put a bunch of plywood on top of it, and we hung some black trash bags off the front, and then we started hanging those up on the wall. And this is probably horrible now that I'm thinking back on it, but we used to just stop on the side of the road and stuff and grab like remnants of carpet and stuff that people had laying out. We were trying to soundproof it, and we didn't know what we were doing, but we put that stuff in there and put it behind that black kind of tarp looking stuff. So it did help. It kind of cushioned the sound because in that concrete, floor and everything, it was bouncing
Sure.
off.
Oh,
We
for
kind
sure.
of muffled it a little bit. And it was a giant warehouse. It had rows. So, 18 wheelers and stuff were pulling in. And, but when we would throw a party, we would always say, we got to go clean the parking lot up. Like no matter what time the party got over, we would take one of those drums. We'd put it in the back of John, our drummer's pickup truck, and we would go around and pick up the pizza boxes and beer cans and all the stuff that was laying around everywhere. I mean, people used to bring all kind of stuff to that place. Crazy.
Right.
It was kind of like a little club. We hired 2 football guys from Ole Miss to run the door. And we said, we'll give you all the beer you can drink. Just don't let anybody get into it. I was telling y'all, people kind of puffed up at each other every once in a while. And there was a giant sand pile that was right outside our bay door. And we said, if anybody gets real crazy, just pick them up and throw them in the sand pile and let them. So that was kind of their marching orders. But we charged a cover and we would throw a giant party the next day or the cleanup day or whatever. And man, we actually showcased in there for 5 or 6 record labels. They came to see it. And it had 2 offices in the front with these stairs that went up to an open overlook. And we built we took some 2x4s up there and built a bar and put the sound up there. And we made a little VIP area. Nice. And the record people came in first. Like nobody knew this. They came in first and we took them up there and they had a drink or whatever. And they're standing around. And then they just organically watched all these people come in. And we had put like 5-gallon buckets full of sand in the building so we didn't burn it down. We're like, please put your cigarettes in this thing. Don't catch the building on fire.
Yeah. And
they just watched, but they would come in with their lawn chairs. They drag coolers in, and it was like, do whatever you want to, just don't nobody get hurt.
Right.
That's what we're about. So it was kind of a free for all. No supervision, only those couple of bouncers at the front, and they were probably, partying and stuff too. But the people just flipped out. The record label couldn't believe it. And I really, honestly, the credit goes to Keith, our guitar player. He was always kind of like a little entrepreneur minded person. He was thinking about like, how can we do it? And he was strategic about how we played. He didn't want us to play. We watched a lot of those bands because of all that local support. People were playing all the time. And he said, I don't want to do that. I want to do it like every once in a while. So we really make it worth everybody showing up,
right.
Coming out and doing a party. And so he was very business savvy right at the very beginning when we started. I think he had a lot to do with our success along with the DJs and venues and stuff in town. So it was so fun though. And we still have people that write us all the time that say, I saw you at the warehouse and, things like, and we just laugh and trade stories and it's a great memory, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. And that was so cool. Like telling the story of that show at the Vic Theater. Now I saw that tour 3 times.
Yeah.
Once in Chicago. It was like a week before I moved down to Florida to go to college to become a sound engineer, television engineer. That's where I met Jason.
Yeah.
So Jason went on to record I Will Always Love You by Whitney and like Black Sabbath Live. And I went on to do like special effects and like tour consulting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what was cool is like you were basically my age and I caught you coming backstage and we went out to the alley and it was fucking cold as hell, man. And we shared a cigarette.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
And your manager comes up and he's freaking out because Z-Rock is in a bus right in front of the Vic waiting to interview you. And he couldn't find you and he was losing his mind. So my friends are all nervous because I'm having a cigarette.
Yes,
and
man.
So I walk around the Vic and I walk down Belmont, finished it. And I knew that was the last time I was going to be in the city, my last show in Chicago before I went and did this.
Oh, wow. Well,
so
man.
like I tell that story all the time. That was such your band on stage, there's kinetic energy. There's no, everyone, and then I was reading one article and you're talking about the shooting of walking shoes and like, yeah, man, they were telling us to be extra hyper.
Yeah.
Like how do you keep that up?
Well, we totally freaked. That was just such a new experience to us. Ardent had got into the video business. John had kind of seen that wave, that trend or whatever going on. So he kind of was building that into his studio. So he helped facilitate that through the record company. They brought a director out from LA and they scouted a bunch of places, but we were unfamiliar with being in front of a camera and things like that,
Sure.
besides just shooting a show or something that we were doing at a club or something. But so it was very different. And, a little bit of it was, we were inexperienced, was we just got, self-conscious, and we were kind of intimidated and stuff. But it's started kind of loosening up. We asked some of our friends to come into the room with us, it's a place called Handy Hall on Bill Street, WC Handy Blues Hall. And some of those guys showed up, and some of them made the cut, which was hilarious. And the thing, one of our friends, he's passed away now, but he was biting the cap off a bottle, got in the video. And that was just so fun, man. That whole LA Guns and Dangerous Toys, I was telling you before, it was such a cool experience for us because it was the first one. And I remember we kicked it off in Dayton, Ohio, and
I would say it's the best tour of the time period. I mean, just the energy, like all you guys just kicked ass, melted people's face, flesh off their faces. There was no one could ever say anything bad about that tour, no matter what city I saw it in. Just amazing, man.
Somebody came and knocked on the door, and they said, "Hey, come down to the lobby at 7:00." We were in the hotel, and we were like, "Oh, they're fixing to lay some ground rules." The road manager must want us to come or something. But anyway, we kind of went. We weren't sure what was going to happen, and we kind of walked into the lobby and looked through the bar, and it was all the LA Guns guys there, and they raised their drink up, and they were like, "Man, get ready for the next, best few weeks of your life." I think we were with them for 6 or 8 weeks, and we clicked with Dangerous Toys right off the bat because we kind of had a Southern thing going. They were from Texas, and we were from Tennessee. And we ended up riding each other's buses, and we ended up getting banned from separating from each other. They said, "We're trying to do a head count at the end of the night," and it's like herding cats. Like somebody's talking, somebody's in the building, somebody's going to get left behind, and just having a great time. And I just talked to Jason the other day. I still talk to him all the time. He hadn't changed a bit. He sings his ass off. He's great.
He's awesome.
Oh, he's incredible. And I saw you on a podcast with him not too long ago.
Yeah, man. And we were just talking a couple of days ago. I mean, he's had a busy year. I think they're about to get ready for the Monsters of Rock, and you can see them down in Texas at a few shows this year. They're going to do the music festival this year. So I'm very excited for him. His voice, man, he's filled in for Armored Saint and Accept. And he's
the go-to guy.
He's just busy, man. And I'm happy because he's happy. He's having a good time. We're both.
I would have loved to have seen him front AC/DC.
Yeah, that's right. He's got the voice for it.
Yeah, he's amazing, man.
Yeah,
he's still got the range, and he's still he hadn't changed at all. I think that's why I like him. Is nothing about him.
Real good.
Met him
like at that time when you guys like broke out, like music was getting tired. Like we had the derivatives of the derivatives of the derivatives.
Yeah,
and then you and Dangerous Toys come out, and Dangerous Toys had more of the Southern thing, but you had more of the blues thing going on. And I was going with the blues, and there was some like Great White. They had Once Big like all this stuff was starting to percolate, and then of course the band that we shall not name came out and kind of squashed everything.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. We were talking the other day. Our records came out really close. I think we came out at the beginning of May, and then we came out like the middle of May. And we were only a few weeks apart in our releases, and we went through similar experiences with our record companies. It was just a kind of in a retrospect and kind of looking back in 2020, it was a shift, was happening. I know it happened, culturally with music, but I mean, I think corporately too, they were kind of tapping into a new audience, and they had a whole new group of people to target and sell records too. So, and a lot of people have had questions with me about, the grunge and all that kind of stuff, and that it crushed hair metal, and while we lumped into hair metal, and we were kind of just thinking of it that we were just doing kind of our own, staying in our own lane. We loved all those bands. I mean, I had Bon Jovi posters, I had Motley Crue people, I had
absolutely,
but when
you guys were different than that.
Yeah, and we played with Alice in Chains, man. We did shows with them before they broke out, and we just thought they were another rock band. They didn't, they weren't like walking in going, "Hey, we're grunge and we're the new."
Sure. Well, it's a label marketers put on them.
Right.
Yeah, and we played with them, and then we kind of stayed in touch with them. They recorded at some stuff at A&M Studios, so we bumped into them there, and then they came through Memphis a few times, and we got to visit with them and talk to them. And of course, Soundgarden was on A&M, so our record label, our A&R rep, was part of their team. He was an up and coming person in the A&R department, and he had Extreme and Soundgarden, and then we were his third act. And so
Oh wow,
we had a lot of
a little busy.
benefit off their success, man, because we had access to resources and stuff through A&M that, you know, other bands maybe that were getting signed to other labels at the time didn't have that opportunity, you know. So we felt lucky.
Oh, More Than Words was huge.
Yeah, I saw Extreme in Memphis before that song came out, but they played it in the set, you know.
Yeah.
Really powerful. I'll never forget it. There was a place called the New Daisy. It's on Bill Street, kind of on the far end, going away from the river. And we all grew up playing there. It's about a 900 or 1,000 seat theater. And the guy that ran its name was Mike Glenn. He was a boxing promoter, and he drove into town in his car with about 6 or 8 boxers. And he threw an event in that theater, man. And the guy that owned the building said, "Dang, man, you brought a bunch of people in here. Why don't you just start managing it?" And Mike said, "Okay, man." He was hilarious, man. They had Tuesday night fights in there, and I remember going in there. You could, smoke and stuff, so it was real smoky. Yeah. And the ring was up, and they had professional boxers that would fight volunteers, people that just got in the ring with them. You know,
that's crazy. Yeah.
They would walk in, and the guy would walk in like this.
I got beer muscles, $100.
Everybody could just go crazy in there, you know.
Yeah.
But Mike was one of those people that let you do original music. He teamed up with Rock 98. There was a DJ at the time in Memphis named Malcolm Riker that was doing a locals only show. And they started doing a thing that partnered with a local music store, Amro Music. And so Amro would provide a backline. Malcolm would promote the show on the radio, and then he would come down and he would MC it.
Right.
And you could do, I think it was three songs or 15 minutes, and they'd pull the plug. And you could do anybody could, submit themselves for it. Malcolm was kind of powerful, or not kind of, he was powerful because of logistically where we're sitting in the state. In Tennessee, we're in the southwest corner. So it goes over Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, up in the Boot Hill, Missouri. So he's broadcasting all those places, and all these people would show up to those events that he was throwing. And the place, that 1,000-seat place, would be full of people all your age. It'd be full of people about 16 to 18 years old, just in there. There were some older musicians. When we started thinking about it, we're like, man, these people are kind of, really advanced players and stuff. And we realized those were the dudes that had been around for a while, but they just saw the opportunity, and they would come in and blow the place off. There was a band, Tony Smith,
excuse me,
and some bands like that. But anyway, it was kind of a coveted opportunity to get on his local only show. It was an hour-long show. But if you got on there, you got broadcast everywhere. And so that's kind of, he just took a liking to us for some reason and got us radio with him. And he would do those shows. And I saw Eric Gales. I don't know if
Oh, hell yeah. We've covered Eric, man. He's amazing. His latest album's fantastic, too.
We grew up together. We still talk to each other.
Right on.
He was part of the Ardent production stuff, too. And
I Want My Crown is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
When I first saw him, he was wearing glasses. He was a little dude. He wasn't very big at all. And it was him. Right. He had an older brother, Eugene. It was really bad. They both could play the guitar. And Eugene just said, "I'll play bass." And they had this guy, Hubert, on drums. But they were a 3-piece. But Eric kind of walked out on stage, and he had his pedals, and he just kind of rolled them out. They kind of but man, he grabbed a hold of a wah-wah, and it blew everybody's. I mean, we just went, "Oh my God, who is this?"
Oh, he's incredible.
This guy, the tone that came out of his fingers, we just went, "Oh my God, who is this person?"
Wow.
He's just him and his family. They were anointed. I mean, when we talk about people that are gifted, he could play drums, he could play B3, he could do the guitar upside down. I mean, he's freaking amazing, And I'm very happy for him. He's doing really great now and having good success, because he got out of the scene for a second. But I'm very happy for him. But yeah, Memphis was awesome back then, and
I was going to ask you about the local rock scene. Was there a good, strong scene there? A lot of other bands. I mean,
yeah. And because of those radio stations, it was Rock 103 and Rock 98 were there, and both of them supported local music. And I think we were getting kind of the overflow from the Strip. It kind of
Sure.
went its way through the middle America, and it kind of got over there. And Bill Street's kind of a touristy area. I don't know if y'all have ever been down there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of blues clubs and a lot of people, super talented people playing in the clubs. There's people on the street jamming,
Yeah.
and but there was a bunch of little rockers that went down that Daisy. That kind of became like a little hub. They were doing shows in there all the time. Mike gave people opportunities to play, and they built it up. And I think we started out at the old Daisy across the street, and then we moved into the Daisy, the big room across the street. As we were kind of building the audience, but the scene was incredible. It was tons of bands. Everybody was recording, trying to get on those radio shows. So the producers, and there was a producer showcase that went on that brought a bunch of industry people to town. There was tons of showcases, all those battle of the bands kind of things. It was a bunch of young people that was excited.
Right.
Everybody there was competition, of course, because you're just, kind of, you want it that's healthy or whatever. But everybody did recognize if people started getting attention, it kind of helped the whole community.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
One person kind of caught on fire. So you were competing, but you're also kind of rooting for each other because you're like, hey, if that guy gets enough attention, he's going to get a bunch of people here.
Right.
We can all kind of share in the wealth. The water's rising for everybody. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that one. Like I've heard you say that all you guys felt some sort of responsibility because you were representing when you were out on the road.
Yeah,
that's totally. I mean, that's a character thing. That's totally cool.
Yeah, man, and the musical heritage of Memphis.
Oh, hell yeah.
So heavy, and from the blues to rock and roll to Stax to the rock scene in the 70s. There were some great bands. Southern Creed and Target, they were signed to A&M. They were on the same label as us.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Jameson ended up going to Survivor.
Survivor's from my town, Downers Grove, Illinois.
Yeah. So Jimmy was a Memphis guy that ended up coming in after the original guy. And, he was super talented. One of the most humble people you've ever met in your life. He was so talented. And if he was in town, he sang on our Tora Tora stuff. So when y'all are listening to our
That's awesome.
He would come in and do backups on our record, and he would talk to us about the industry. And he was just he had this kind of mischievous grin. He was always in a good mood.
Right.
He was up to something all the time.
Yeah, Jim Pederick just played last night, and he's doing something for Jameson's. I don't know. Something for his organization fundraising event.
Yeah, and I ended up bumping into Jim Pederick up here in Nashville. I've been here for about 18 years.
Yeah.
I worked for the record labels, and then I worked in music publishing for about 8 years. And Jim ended up being a client because he was with Bicycle Music Company out of Los Angeles, and we were repping him here. And he was just a killer dude. He came in like the middle of the day. He walked in, and he looked like he was supposed to walk on stage with
purple hair, glasses, cowboy boots tucked in. Yeah.
People. But he was the most down-to-earth dude in the world, And look at his song catalog, man. Everything he did from Survivor to 38 Special to his band,
Half of the 80s was Petrick,
Yeah. He was amazing, man.
Depends on your accent,
Yeah. He was a crazy guy, man. He was nuts. I
want to ask you something. Okay, so earlier in the day, this is February 26th for everyone listening, of course. Me and Fred covered Guilty. We went over that, but it was the unreleased video.
Yes.
And I was talking to Jason earlier. I'm like, dude, they had an unreleased video. Like, what was that meeting like? Because that's a lot of effing money to draw. I know where you shot. I've shot there many times.
Yeah.
That's not cheap.
It wasn't.
You know what I mean? I could only imagine the conversation. Like, what?
Yes, it was crazy. Well, we had momentum off Walking Shoes, and we had gained some traction. We got on the countdowns on MTV. We went to #1 on the Hard 60 or something like that.
Oh, I just want to thank you in advance for getting me laid many times in college.
Oh,
thank you very much, Anthony.
Yeah, man. But we kind of had built up some momentum, so our budget kind of expanded. They were like, hey, man, we got some momentum. We got some people's attention. Let's do something, and let's get it out of Memphis. And we went to this airplane graveyard outside of Phoenix, and they painted our logo on an airplane. They put a giant stage with a logo on it. We had dancing girls and lights and all that going off. And I flew my dad out. This is how crazy it was.
That's awesome, dude.
You have to come see this. This is incredible. I mean, it's just, we were staying at some, golf resort or something. I said, we got plenty of room. Come out here and hang out. So he came out for like, I think 2 or 3 days. And we shot in tons of footage, man. We shot all kind of stuff, man, different locations. And it was a big production a long time ago. Now, we're in a different place with technology, but
I've done 300 music videos, and I was just like going ding, 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 ding. Like,
oh
my God.
The staff and the catering and the, everybody, the crews and all that stuff. But anyway, we do this whole thing and we leave. And for us, we're all busy, like the band and the managers, we're all just kind of, moving on to the next thing, and we're on the road or whatever. And then all of a sudden we hear there's an issue with the video. And we were like, they're not going to approve this video. There's something about it, the lighting or or whatever it was. I don't know what. There's a bunch of things. They told us a lot of things that they wanted to rework or rethink. And we were thinking, well, maybe they're going to, rework the footage, or they're going to and listen, this is just for everybody, listening and watching or whatever. But in our mind, we're doing all these things and we're up in business, but we're not thinking like we're responsible for this money. Like,
that's what I'm getting to. That's
there's this kind of there's this ongoing supply. I'm with a corporate entity, man, that's kind of got, backing and financial. I can kind of we could do it. And it's not like we were sitting there individually going, hey, we're going to go make this video. They had done all this research, all these things behind the scenes that we never even knew were going on. We were wandering around with guitars and our chords and hugging and kissing everybody. And there's back at the camp, at their label, there's meetings to have meetings about meetings that say, hey, this is the people we need to be talking to and target market and all that stuff. And we didn't realize that back then. So there's this ongoing tab. We knew that we were responsible, but we weren't thinking like, hey, we're responsible for this. Right. And, but what happened was we're touring, and they said, hey, instead of reworking the video, we're just going to reshoot it when you come to LA. You're coming down the West Coast, you're on a tour, and you're going to stop off here in Los Angeles, and we're going to shoot your video. And we went into a warehouse. We shot the Guilty video in about a day and a half in a warehouse after we had spent like 3 days out in the thing. And so the final version is what you guys saw that came out on MTV. There was an actor that died. We weren't there necessarily for all that, but we saw the footage and all that stuff. But it was different. We had managers and people that were trusted resources at the time, and we said, hey, man, let's do what we think's best. We hated to lose the content, but it was as fast as everything was going, we were kind of like, we kind of need to get this out because
I've told many people many times over the years, I'm like, oh, I'm like, music videos are great, but they suck. They suck for the crew. They suck for the band, especially because you're like, okay, these guys, they've been touring their ass off, partying, doing what they're supposed to do, and they have 24 hours.
Yeah.
They're going to be in town. And, hopefully they'll be awake for most of that time.
Yeah.
That's not a knock on the musicians, because you guys are, people have no idea. When you're traveling, location ain't vacation.
Right.
Traveling sucks, man. And,
it was crazy. We always had a good time. We had,
of course.
We had 3 of our best friends, our crew guys. So we were always cutting up and getting into stuff when there was a hurry up and wait, people setting things and getting things right and all that. And your performance part would be for a few minutes, 3 minutes or whatever the song is. And then they'd say, okay, let's reset everything. And y'all go sit around for a minute. And so those days would get long just because they're kind of dragging along. But really, we were entertaining ourselves and having a good time. And we were young too. So we were kind of able to be pretty resilient about bouncing up after partying.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, most of the times in music videos, it was cool, but there's times when you could tell the artist was miffed.
Yeah.
And understandable. Totally understandable.
That second video was hard because we were like, man, we kind of just did this, and we kind of went through where we were, and we actually, in our mind, maybe even, and I mean, that's going a long way back. There's a lot of memory since then, but it might have been that we thought that they were going to use some of that extra footage or something they ended up using that. And listen, a little tidbit on the side, I think that I heard through the grapevine that the day after we left that warehouse, another band walked in and used the set.
Oh wow.
I think it was
Oh,
like
that doesn't. Yeah,
it
I'm
might have been the
surprised.
Junkyard guys. I'm not positive, but there was a rumor like that because it was already kind of there. The equipment's
Yeah.
there. Like, hey, I can just bring you in, and we're kind of already set, and ready to rock.
Oh, I can hear the conversation. Hey, I can save you $1,500, and
Yeah.
they saved like 30 grand or whatever.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
No,
And
don't worry about it. It's already dressed, ready to go.
yeah, it was awesome. And we love the Junkyard guys. I mean, we just
Yeah.
saw Monsters Rock last year.
Oh, Junkyard, great band.
They sound amazing. They were super down to earth too, man. I hadn't had a chance to really talk to them a lot. But,
So when you saw your original album cover, you saw this.
yes, yeah.
I mean, come on.
There was a guy.
One of the coolest album covers of all time. Not to mention, based on one of the coolest preludes to one of the coolest Van Halen songs ever.
Oh yeah, exactly. There was a guy named Chuck Beeson at A&M. He was the art illustrator that kind of came up with the lady.
Oh yeah.
When this came into play, man, for our record promotion, man, we went around when you were talking about Z-Rock and all those places.
Yeah.
We would go on the air to promote the show, and we would say, "Hey, we're looking for the girl on our album cover. If you look like her, if you come down here, we're going to give you tickets to the show tonight." So the girls would come, and then all the guys would come because they wanted to see the girls that were there. And so we
Absolutely.
and we get people hyped up, and it served us well throughout that whole first album. And we had some of the best promotion people in the world. We had the craziest times on the road with them. I mean, y'all, it was like out of a Hangover movie or something. It was things that ever happened. And we were busy, and we would play shows and do meet and greets and parties afterward. And then we would have to be at a radio call the next morning to play live on the air at like 6 o'clock drive time.
Right.
I wouldn't go to bed sometimes. I'd go straight from right into the thing and go, all right, let's crank the guitar on and let's talk about coming up and, whatever it was. And not always, but there was a few that pop out in my memory. But, man, those promotion guys were so fun at A&M. It was still independent when we were with them. They had started A&M out of the trunk of Herb Alpert's car selling records, 45s. And I think during our first album, between Walking Cheese and Guilty, they sold a Polygram for like $500 million.
Yeah.
They had Janet Jackson and Sting and, all these huge pop artists and all that stuff. And it was just awesome. They were such a cool group of people.
Yeah, I got to work with Janet Jackson, and one of the cool things, dude, A&M Studios in LA, going there is I was at every but going to A&M, dude, as soon as you pass through those bricks, man, like it was a special play. It was different than anywhere else there.
Yeah.
It totally had a different vibe.
Recorded out there. We recorded everything that we did at Ardent for those first 6 years, for those first 3 projects. Yeah. But he was doing some kind of radio edit, maybe for, it must have been on Wild America, like Faith Healer or something. He went out and he was telling us how awesome it was. He was like, "Oh my God, this place is amazing." And, I think he had like flown out there and then he was meeting us back out on the road somewhere. But
yeah.
So I want to talk about how songs change meaning over time.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So like on Monday Metal, we're going to be covering the top 10 metal ballads. And of course, Phantom Rider. That's the song, by the way, thank you.
Oh, wow.
The first half. Yeah. But then, as people know, the show started because of my brother committed suicide. And so this is, we talk about mental health through music and fart jokes and entertainment. And, after my brother died, I couldn't talk on the phone for a year. Like he was my left hand. Jason was on, every day. Hey brother, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. So I just want to bring this up because you say every single person is powerful.
Yeah.
And so like, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't listen to comedy. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't going, like all this stuff is going through my head.
Yeah, man.
Then there's this lyric: "Comes a time you feel them pass you by, witness the pain that it leaves you behind." That right there, like I was able to listen to music, and I'm like, well, I want to feel good. I want to listen to Tora Tora, and that came on. Then that hit, and I was like, holy shit! I'm gonna get a little emotional. I'm sorry, but this lyric right here is one of the best words in a row in a song that appeared. because I listened to this line 200 times in a row.
Oh my gosh.
And that was part of my healing, was this lyric.
Man, thank you so much for saying that. A lot of this song is
and Tommy helped you write that, right?
Thomas Howard. Yes. Yeah. He was a dear friend of mine, and he still is, actually. We're still close. He lived in my neighborhood. He wasn't part of the Torah Inner Circle. And I've been doing a bunch of these storyteller shows on acoustic from coming out of the pandemic COVID thing. And I started kind of traveling around with acoustic. And I get to talk about all these people behind the scenes. But he was one of those people that if you look at Surprise Attack and Wild America and all that, his name is popping up as a co-writer on there all the time.
Yeah.
And he wasn't part of the band, but he was part of our circle, our inner circle.
Part of the family.
Yeah, he lived in my neighborhood. He lived down the street. We didn't go to the same school. He was a incredible lyricist, man. He had stacks of poetry. He could kick ass on bass. He was a badass player.
Mm-hmm.
I loved progressive music, like Rush and Yes and all that. And I like Zeppelin and Janis Joplin. So we were kind of butting heads all the time, but in a good way, arguing with each other.
Yeah.
I tell this story every night. He used to walk his dog. He had a little black dog named Fred, their family did. And he would walk Fred every night. And I lived in a little ranch house. I tell this exact story in the set. And I would wave at my parents, hey, good night, parents. I'm going to bed. And I'd walk in my room, and we lived in a little ranch house in this neighborhood. And I kicked the screen out of my window. I could see Thomas's cherry of his cigarette coming down and I would crawl out my window, and we would sit there and just stare at the stars, man, and talk about music. We would just dream. We were like, man, what if we wrote something? What if if somebody listened? Would they ever listen to what we were talking about or whatever? And we were going through, we're all trying to figure stuff out. I still don't know what's going on, but when you're a teenager, you're really figure stuff out.
Right.
Really heavy thoughts. We had friends, that had been part of our school surroundings and stuff that had been in a car wreck, things like that were really heavy. You're like, man, wow, we're like bulletproof and can do anything. And all of a sudden something really jerks you into reality all of a sudden. And that song inspired us to start thinking about how one person makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that song came from. Is we said, a lot of people go, you wrote a song about dying, or whatever. And I get that, but we want the song to mean something to the listener. We want them to interpret it how they want to. But from our standpoint is we just wanted to say something about celebrating life. And about the power of people. And Thomas and I were talking, and I remember sitting on the side of my bed, just strumming that opening chord. And we were like, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be. And then Thomas had some lyrics, and we kind of started sitting down, and he was always super gifted at that. He had a way of saying something that I wouldn't say it. I would just say something really kind of blunt and not creative, but he would put a twist on it. And we worked really well together like that. I love doing the melodies and the music, and he liked doing the lyrics. So we kind of would trade out spots. And he was musical too. But anyway, that song meant a lot. And it's the song that got everybody's attention. When we did it, it meant something to our school friends. Everybody kind of related to it. But then it got on the radio when we put it on that locals only show. And it just started, making impact on people, and they started calling in. And so that song got outside of the locals only show. It started becoming like a top 5 requested song by itself. And our record label rep, Brian Huttenhauer, that signed us to A&M, said, I knew I was going to sign y'all because I flew to Memphis. And he goes, I got in my rent-a-car and turned the radio on, your songs playing. Come on. And so it was powerful. But I think what you were saying a minute ago, and I'm sorry to hear about your brother, but the one thing that's amazing is that he's still with us because he's still touching lives. We're sitting here talking about him.
Yeah, this show, personally, that we know of, because people have reached out to us, we've saved 5 men.
Oh, wow.
From taking an irreversible action.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for this album that also infected you,
man, yes. Oh my God.
My dude, this is from my brother's K-Tel, like whatever it was, not K-Tel. It was like
Columbia.
Columbia House.
10 albums for like,
Yeah, Columbia House. Yeah.
That's true, man. Yeah,
I don't know about the 75 people who lived in my house that I ordered albums for.
that's what we were all doing back then. That's
Oh yeah.
But man, I do believe that there's a plan and a purpose for every person. I believe that people come into your life for a reason, just like we met. Music has been such a powerful force in my life. I've met so many people because of it.
Right. And people who don't get it will ask me, why would you say that to the artist? Aren't you good? Do you want to? I'm like, that's why they write music.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Like, do you totally not get it? I mean, like, people are like, oh, and people go, yeah, no, like, if it wasn't for that, I mean, that was 30 years of history.
Yeah.
Inside myself, not only playing it as a band and singing your songs, and I love singing your voice. Jason also covered Tora Tora and his band, and you get that little gift, and it was really cool that out of nowhere, I'm just listening to a song to try to bring me back because I was devastated, and I'm listening to one of my favorite albums of all time, and then that song comes on. And I'm like, oh, man. And you listen to it in a different way.
Yeah.
And I've heard the song and sung the song, Anthony, a million times.
Yeah.
But I'm like, holy shit. Just lift your hands up to the sky and feel the warmth of the sun. And that broke me out of my shell.
Oh, man.
So thank you very much. And thank you, Thomas.
Yeah,
wherever you are.
I'll tell him tonight. I'll text him tonight. I still, man, to this day, I'll be flying around the country and sitting in baggage claim somewhere, and I write him and go, hey, I'm waiting on a ride, and I'm about to go sing that song that we wrote like 30 years ago.
That's wild, right?
It's incredible. He's a talented guy.
Yeah.
He's a very talented guy.
Okay, now, so getting into Revolution Day, which I sent to Jason earlier. Okay, what was really cool must have been, I don't know. I'm getting old, Anthony. So it must have been 10 or 12 years ago. I'm randomly driving for a job, shitty day, whatever. And I'm on I'm just, today in Chicago. Oh, and here we go with Michael Jackson. So I'm going through the radio dial. And I'm like, I hear one note singing. I'm like, that's Anthony Corder. And I'm like, all of a sudden there was a live Tora Tora show on the fucking radio. I'm like, what is going on? So that's when I don't know what happened, but I didn't give a shit about the next stops. I pulled over, and for the next 45, I was just smoking cigarette after cigarette, just jamming out to Tora Tora live. And I thought that was like the coolest thing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know what that was from, but I sent the Lost Tora Tora album today to Jason. He's like, dude, I didn't even know. I'm like,
I'm embarrassed to say I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But for since you responded, we've been listening to Tora Tora fucking nonstop. You know what I mean?
So that was a hard, kind of pill to swallow. We were kind of cruising along, and the A&R guy that I was telling you about earlier got an offer to go to a new record label. He had a bunch of success with Soundgarden Extreme. We were kind of on cruise control, and then we got a call. He was very upfront with us. He just said, hey, this is an offer I can't turn down. This is everything I've been working for. I'm going to go to a new label. And we went, great, we're going with you. And he was like, well, you're under contract with A&M.
Oh,
you're not going to be going with me. It wasn't a total kill, but it was a, kind of tugged us a little bit.
Right.
And so, that kind of shook us to the core. We got assigned a new A&R guy who was fine, but he wasn't like organically there at the very beginning and all that. He was just he would come to Memphis and check in, and we could kind of feel the vibe shift. It was a dark time. Music had shifted. Our shoes were different. People were, the grunge thing had taken off. There was a lot of less space, I guess, for opportunities like on MTV and all that kind of stuff. We were kind of getting weeded out a little bit. But we were toughing it out. A&M had left us on the road, and we said, hey, we don't mind. We'll just headline clubs. If you guys will help us have tour support and keep us out here, we'll just go to work. We don't mind, it out.
Sure.
And grinding it out or whatever. But, when the A&R guy left, he's kind of your voice into the corporate wheel. You know,
Right.
it's kind of there helping you with marketing funds and promotion and all that kind of stuff. Working with like a product manager type person. And so we knew that was going to be a shift, man. The alliance that had been built and everything wasn't quite as strong as it was. And so when we kind of got wind of it, we freaked out and we just said, call everybody we know and get them in the studio because we want to get this stuff on tape. You know, we had worked on that record probably for about a year and a half, recording on and off in town when we weren't traveling. And, you know, we put a lot of effort into it. And then came the call, the one that you never want to get, which was, it's not if the record's coming out, it's never coming out, we're going to shelve it. And
so how did that make you feel at that point?
That was
at the time, because you were cruising along, you guys were like, as fans, we were like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the second coming of Van Halen, which I know will tickle you guys, but we're like, fuck yeah, man, this band. And we're like, what happened?
What happened?
It was,
and of course we understood because we were working within it.
Yeah.
We knew what was going on.
Yeah. It was pretty.
So how did you handle that and then digest it and then, as you say, turn to the dark side?
Oh yeah, I went dark. It was hard, man. I mean, for about 6 years, we were consistently busy and in activities and planning and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, it was like a light switch.
Yeah,
it's literally about that quick, and it was hard to get phone calls if you're not working. You know, the people that are your supporting staff and everything, that becomes an issue because you're trying to, you know, keep everybody going. It's kind of a big, you know, wheel rolling, and so that was hard. Some of the phone calls weren't getting returned, and we were trying to figure out stuff. And you know, man, thinking back to it without going, you know, into something super heavy, we spend all night talking about. Retrospect wise, I think it played out kind of in a good favor for us because we were getting to a point. There were some shifts in our personal lives. Keith was married. He had a baby on the way. He was kind of thinking about what's it going to be like on the road.
Right.
That kind of thing was going on. I mean, obviously, and I'm just going to be totally transparent, I was super selfish when this happened because I was like, holy shit, this is destroying my whole life. What the hell?
Well, you're the face of the band, period.
I wasn't thinking about everybody else. I was just thinking like, what am I going to do? I've been singing my whole life. What the hell's going on? You know? But you kind of have that moment of panic. I remember getting in a car. I drove to Beale Street. I went down to a place called Rum Boogie Cafe. It was part of that Handy Hall where we shot the shoes, but it's on the corner kind of. And Handy Hall is kind of as you're going up Beale Street. It's the next door place. But anyway, I had a really great singing buddy that was there. His name was James Govan. He was a soul singer. He was about as big around as a matchstick. He wore a little captain's hat. He had a vest on. He sang like Otis Redding. This dude, he could sing Otis and Al Green and Etta James, all that. And I loved him. I would go there all the time and drink. I'd sit there all night and loved to listen. He had a horn section, a B3, and a girl singer that would come out and do Tell Mama, you know, for Etta James. And she was cute and awesome and everything. And anyway, I just looked up to James, you know, and he was kind of advanced. He was probably closer to my age now, and I was about 20 or something. And he would have a drink with me, and he'd let me get up and do like Trouble in Mind or one of those old blues songs, you know, Dust My Broom or something with him, and do the horns and all that. And so we became friends. But I remember running down there when I found out the record label was, and I walked in, and there was a booth, and James was in it. He was smoking like a cool cigarette and had a couple of chicks around him. Oh my God, the deal is going down. And he had been in the studio. He'd come we had the Memphis Horns on the sessions and stuff, and he had come in there to say hey to them. And he said, what's going on? You know, and I said, hey man, the record deal's going away. I don't have a deal anymore. And I was just in a complete spaz panic, you know. And he kind of looked at me and I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And he goes, man, you're going to do what you do. You're a singer, man. You're just going to keep singing and writing songs. He just had this. You know, he had been through it with himself. And he was.
I'm friends with this guy named Herman Hines. He's a Chicago blues legend.
Yeah.
This guy, he did, you know. So I wind up becoming friends with Herman. And he's like, he's telling me stories like, I worked at Joliet prison up until I retired. And right after that, you know, because he would sing in the jail in the wards or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
He would sing.
Wow.
And so he started his career when he retired. The guy's 80 years old right now. Fantastic. It's so great. I live about 30 seconds walk from a blues bar, and he'll come in with the band. It'll be the Hurricane Project. And he'll walk in, he'll go, okay. He'll turn around, he'll give him 3 instructions. And he just fucking kills it. 80 years old. I mean, he knows what's going, you know what I mean? And a friend of mine came in from Missouri, and she's like, I haven't sang in 20 years. He's like, come on, honey. Like, he was ready to leave because someone was dicking with him with like video in his face. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. You can't put a camera in someone's face. And he was ready to leave, and I get my friend Jennifer, and she hasn't sang in 20 years, and they did this duet of 3 songs.
I remember you posted it, yeah.
Wow, that's
just magical. You know what I mean? It's like, man, if only people realized like the magic of music, you know. Music's magical. There's that little thing, man, that, you know, and the reason why you stuck out, Anthony, like everyone had a high note at that time, but your high note was different.
And yours had more soul than the others.
Soul and heart, rather than a technical, let's get up there.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
You know, and I love singing you, and so much fun. My son, who's 23 years old, can play Guilty on the drums.
Oh wow, man.
You know, Hard Times is one. You know, that's the set. You know, I do Cat Scratch Fever, then I go right to Manish Boy, and then Hard Times on the drums. So I do that 40 minutes a week, and that's my cardio. I'm like, I'm not going to the gym, dude. I can't do that. So I bought a drum kit. I hadn't had a drum kit in the house for 25 years. Lost 30 pounds, and you know, I play you guys every day.
Oh wow!
So,
thank you for doing
know, I know we're talking about the past, but let's go forward to the future to Bastards of Beale.
Yeah,
great.
I was so happy.
Yes.
This was
like, your fans are your fans, man. You know what I mean? You got a different vibe going on your band than others.
Yeah.
There's multiple times a week. I go to work. I get up at 2 a.m. every day. I drive truck. Wow. And Rose of Jericho with my coffee on the way in. Yeah.
Thank y'all, man.
Consequences, just like Quickstand. You know?
Yes, man. So we
Shine on ever bright. What a great fucking lyric, man.
Oh, thank you, man. Yes, man. That was so fun. We couldn't believe it, y'all. We had been we had always talked about doing new music, and we were doing some one-offs, and our bass player, Patrick, had a health scare, man. He was diagnosed with cancer. And it was like a God or whatever you guys believe, universe or whatever moment where he was out of the country, actually, and he started feeling so bad. He was worried he wasn't going to get back in the country, is what he told us later on. But he got back, and he went for whatever that issue was, and they fixed that, but they said, hey, we noticed something else. And they said, this is a super aggressive cancer, but we caught it right at the very beginning, and you're going to make 100% recovery. You're going to be fine.
Right on.
We're going to get everything, and you'll just have to, you know, come in for a scan or something after that. But anyway, he went through that, and as soon as he got the green light from the doctor, he said, I want to play. I don't care if it's 5 people or 50 or 5,000. Let's get together. Because, you know, at our age and the kind of lifestyles we were having back then, if somebody says something about your health, you start kind of freaking out, you know?
Yeah, sure.
We didn't miss much. I don't know if y'all knew that.
My kids' friends go, hey, Mr. K, I just watched The Dirt. Was that true? I'm like, that's the light. You haven't seen anything. Hell yeah, that's the truth.
But anyway, we got excited about that, and we jumped on the Monsters of Rock cruise, which they had asked us a couple of times, and we couldn't get ourselves together enough to do it. And so we agreed to do it in 2017, and it was amazing. It was so awesome. It was like, finding your tribe. You know, it's 3,000 crazy rock and roll people on a boat and about 40 bands, and it's music for 5 days in a row from 11 in the morning to midnight, you know, or after. And we went on there, and we just had such a great time. There was a girl named April Lee that was responsible for getting us on there. We're super indebted to, and she actually talked to the wives. She said, the guys can't get it together. I'm going to just talk to your wives. They'll get you guys.
Exactly, dude.
And so we got on there, and we loved it, of course. And then we got off, and somebody wrote us on Twitter, like randomly, and said, hey, we would like to talk to you about making new music. And we thought it was somebody smoking weed or something. We were like, man, this is real. This is like some rando person. And we said, ask for their contact, and so we did. And I asked Keith and them to send it to me, and the number was a New Jersey area code. And I said, that's kind of interesting. And it was for Frontiers Records, and they had a U.S. rep. They had one guy, Nick Teeter, that was working here in the States up in New Jersey. And so I called him, and at the time I didn't know him. I didn't know anything. I knew the name of the company because Jimmy Jameson had done some things.
We cover a lot of artists on Frontier.
Yeah, like 20 years ago, Jimmy was doing some solo stuff or something with them. So I knew the name was legit. But anyway, I called the number, and the guy answers and goes, I said, hey, this is Anthony with Tora Tora. You contact us about recording something. I'd like to talk to you. And he goes, hey, I'd love to talk to you. He goes, I'm in the middle of moving. I literally have a box in my hand. He goes, can I call you back? And I was like, oh, man, this is disappointing. I was like, yeah. And I said, I was saying that to myself. But then right before I got off, I just went, hey, man, by the way, where are you moving? And he goes, Nashville. And I live in Nashville. I've been here for, 17 years, or I don't know, back then it was not as long, but 15 years. And I said, oh, wow, man. I said, I'm in Nashville. And I said, what part of town are you going to move to? I'll buy you a cup of coffee. It was freaking one exit from my house.
What?
Got in the car. We were talking on the phone. I said, oh, my God.
I'll see you when the truck pulls up.
I drove over there. He met me at a coffee shop, and we sat down, and he was a little bit younger than me, a couple of years younger than me. But he said, I remember walking to the store when Surprise Attack came out. I went and bought your record.
Yeah.
He goes, now I'm working with this company, and I want to know if you want to record. And I was like, hell yeah, we want to do this, man.
Right.
We didn't know how it was going to work or how the deal was, but I was like, we're interested for sure. And so that was in 2017. And so we set the date for 2018 to go in the studio. So we said we wanted to take a little while to do, because we didn't go in with any old music. We said we want to walk in here with fresh music.
Right.
And so we did that, and we wanted to plan. And we had to figure out who was going to produce it, number one, and then where we were going to do it. And it just turned into the stars lined up. It was the right timing. We were all nervous. We were scared to death because we hadn't recorded new music since like 1994.
Right.
And this was 2017 or 2018, and we started pre-production. But the crazy thing was, we went and found Jeff Powell, who was our assistant engineer on Wild America. He worked at Ardent. He's now in charge of or working out of Sam Phillips Recording Service in Memphis. So if you guys don't know who Sam Phillips is, your listeners, everybody, please look that up. And what he did, Sam had son down the street when he had Howlin' Wolf and all those cats. He sold RCA. He went on the same street down the block and bought an auto body shop. He gutted it, and he built it from the ground up himself. He built his own echo chamber. You can't take pictures of it. You can't go in there when you're touring or anything. But y'all, it looks like he's fixing to walk in any second. I'm not kidding. You walk in, it's seafoam green walls. It's got white checker floors. It's got a shag carpet about this deep.
Don't change anything.
It looked like he was fixing to walk in. And Jeff was there, and he said, look, man, I said, hey, I'm not the little 21-year-old kid, from a long time ago. We're older. And he said, look, I want you to come in and do what you do, and I'll make y'all sound good. And we did it exactly like we did a long time ago. We did tons of pre-production because we didn't want to – we had limited budget and limited time. So we said, let's do all the pre-production ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And I got to give hats off to the guys. They just, man, banged it out. And I would jet down from Memphis and just sing with them, to get our stuff. And, technology's made it where we can trade files and everything. So that was amazing. But the experience of doing that record was so crazy, man, because we didn't really know what it was going to sound like. We were scared. Right, I didn't know what it was.
Let me ask you a question. So going from the old style to new style recording, and by the way, we also covered Walking Shoes' best breakup songs last year for
wow.
That out. I don't know how many times, dude, I've broken up with someone. I'm like, do. That song just automatically plays, good or bad.
Yeah, man.
But and also, if you want to see the rock cruise that Anthony's talking about, you can hear the Recall Phantom Rider. That's really cool because you were digging that vibe that was going on, and you let the song play out an extra minute.
Oh, yes, man.
Invited the audience into it.
It was so fun. It was awesome. They were really great. We loved it.
Absolutely.
But
So
yeah,
recording a new album, like, okay, so like we follow a lot of people, you know, like Michael Sweet, he does like 17 albums a year. George Lynch does 35. You know, okay, you got 2 weeks. So does that, like, to me, I always work best under pressure. So a 2-week thing, is that a good or a bad, or does it have
I think it was awesome. We did this one totally different than any of the other recordings because we would work on those early records for like a year at a time. And we'd do batches of songs. We'd go in and take 4 or 5, and then we pick the best. And then we'd say, all right, everything after this has to beat it, you know?
Right.
And the crazy thing about the early record, especially
Surprise Attack, there's a whole tape. I mean, you take us on a journey that goes all over, and that makes sense that you did it in like 4 batches.
And Walking Shoes was actually really late in the project. It almost didn't go on the record.
Like
how late it was. It was. I remember laying in the floor at Keith's apartment, and he did that the little intro, and I was like, "What is that?" You know, we like got up, we got excited, we're like, "What is that?" And we got in the studio. We ran and got in the studio and got a demo of it and got it into A&M. We weren't even sure it was going to be there, and then it ends up being the first single. So that was a crazy, you know, moment.
Yeah.
But we had been strategic to the sequencing of the record and all that with our Joe Hardy and Paul, because we wrote 60 or 70 songs for that first record.
Wow. That's mind blowing.
Same way for the second record and the third one. We would write and write and write, and then we picked like 20, and then we got really in the fight, you know, about what's going to be the 12 that's really going to get, you know, the production done. And everybody's baby was in there, and you're like kind of trying to take care of it. And we got too many slow songs. We got too many mediums. We need some more fast stuff.
Because you literally, after Phantom Rider came out, you know, the first album, you could have gone solo, boom, done ballads, and everyone would have bought it for a million years.
Oh God, thanks. I don't know about that.
No, I do, because I saw the chicks and the way that they reacted, and let's just say the humidity would rise in the room when Anthony would sing a ballad.
Yeah. Well, listen, those records were kind of like that, but this one was totally different. We did the whole record in 8 days. We're doing kind of like Michael Sweet and them do now.
Yeah.
You're very much more efficient and effective in the studio because of technology.
And seasoned.
We recorded this live. We put the band in the room, and they put me in a vocal booth, and they said, if you get it, we got you. If you miss it or fumble or get out of breath, whatever, we can come back and get you in a minute. Or come in on a different day for vocals. And so that made it really fun. It was like, And John and Keith and Patrick had just done these songs until they knew them upside down. And they did a miking technique. The room's kind of dead at Sam's. It's carpeted and stuff. So they did a miking technique that was kind of like John Bonham. It was 3 mics, and it was kind of out in the room to kind of give it some air. And we would do the take, and then we would go in and listen with John, and we'd say, hey, are you happy? You know, listen through. Did you, you know, and it was funny, and this is crazy probably saying this, but he didn't use a click track. He was using an app on his phone. And if it was supposed to be 75 beats, you know, or 150 beats a minute, he would play 75 and he'd watch it, you know. And so when we're listening back, he go, man, I rushed that tom roll. And we go, it feels like we're live. It feels really good. Are you okay? You know, and he would listen and he'd go, okay, I think I'm okay. And so while we're listening back again, Keith would double up his guitar. So he had like a Strat on one take, and then he'd do like a Les Paul on top of the next take. Mm-hmm. And they did that for a couple of days. We did 2 days of tracking, and then Keith was doing some overdubs and stuff. And then I was coming back to do vocals, and we had a specific date. It was February 22nd was the Monsters of Rock cruise, and we were going to drop the record on the boat for 2019. All the super fans are getting it first.
Right.
It's going to be the only boat in the world was going to have the music. And so we said, to do that, you had to be in the pipeline with Frontiers like 6 months out. So we had to be done with the project in August 28th of 2018 for it to come out in 19. Right. 6 months ahead of time. So I had kind of pushed it to the end with my singing, and we went in, and you know, we'd done it like as a band recorded live, but they would bring me in to sing, and I wanted to sing there because Robert Plant had sang at Sam Phillips recording service, and Bob Dylan had recorded. There was a bunch of things going on, but there was a lot of like soul people had sung there, and I was like, man, I could be in the room where they did it, and I'm all excited. And I got a phone call one day, and it's Jeff Powell, the producer, and he said, hey, this singer Oh, I'm drawing a blank. Excuse me for a second. You don't miss your water till the well runs dry. Hang on a second. I'm going to think of this guy's name. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I can't remember this guy's name. I'll think of it in a second. It's a Stax soul singer. He's probably in his late 70s, early 80s. And he wants the room.
Oh.
And I listen to this guy for Soulful Christmas every year of my life. Of course, I want this guy to have it. And I said, we'll figure. They said, we're going to send your stuff to Nashville. And I said, hell no. This is
Eric Burden. Was it Eric?
No. This guy's name is.
Sorry, man.
Oh, excuse me, y'all. This is going to drive me crazy. I listen to this guy all the time. I can't believe I'm trying to. I'll think of it.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, sorry about that, man.
But anyway, no. William Bell. William Bell is the guy. He's awesome. If you guys haven't listened to him, he's killer. So William wants the room, and I was like, I love him. Yes, I want him to do it. And I said, just let's figure it out. I'll go to another studio, or I'll go to put me in a broom closet. I don't care. Well, the studio is like, yes, and I know the story's getting long, but I just got to tell you this part. When you walk in, you're on the studio floors, okay? The bathrooms are studios, little chill room. If you look to the right, there's steps that go up that have that shag carpet. And you go to a next level, and it's an empty big room of red carpet. And it's got these neon lights around the top of it. And it used to be the distribution centers where they would put all the product for Sam's 45 and all that stuff. And then there's all these plaques on the wall, walk the line, all these publishing plaques, man. It's like history. If you turn the corner to the third floor, you're looking up, and there's a secretary desk. There's a bar that you can go in on the right that's still fully stocked. It's decorated like the 1950s. I mean, you go there making a drink, whatever you do. There's cigarette burns on it where people got hammered and left their cigarette later.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome, you know. And then straight ahead is Sam Phillips' office, and it says the doors are shut and you cannot take any pictures. You can't, when you're on the tour, you can't look at it. You can't go in there. You can't do anything. Well, I called Jeff and them, and they said, William wants a room. And I said, okay, I'm coming to Memphis on this date. Let's figure something out because I got to turn it in for the deadline. So I walk in, y'all, and they said, hey, Anthony, we need to see you upstairs. And so William Bell's singing. I can hear it. I'm getting chill bumps on my arm. I'm like, oh my God, he's in there singing. It's awesome. I can hear B3, you know, spinning and everything. I'm like, oh my God. And so it hits me. I'm like going up the stairs and I go, oh my God, they're going to take me in the bar up there and tell me I can't sing today. And I drove 3 hours from Nashville. You know, I've been in the car, hyped up and doing warm-ups.
Right.
Yeah. And we turn the corner, and freaking Sam Phillips' office doors are wide open, and my microphone is set up in the room. I sang the whole album in his office for 2 days.
That's awesome.
They got permission from the family. They had a laptop set up in there. They have a microphone set up. And when I was standing there, there's these leather chairs that are empty. Each one of them's got an ashtray from the 70s, those little skinny ones, you know, that
yeah.
Your cigarette falls in. They're sitting there.
Orange glass.
One of them is a picture, and it's those chairs, Elvis and Sam Phillips, and they got a girl in their lap, and they're smoking a cigar. And I'm looking at that picture going, oh my God, this is the chair.
And putting your tracks down, looking at the king.
When you look at his desk, it's like the first iPod, man. It's got it's a jukebox built into his desk where he would play the 45 and he would call people and go, hey, I got the hot new one from Jerry Lee Lewis. He would call in ahead of time and tell his secretary to put these 45s in that he was selling today.
Right.
The computer's sitting there, the chairs are over there, and then there's this console TV behind me that's on stant legs about this tall, and it's got a drawer that comes out, and there's a Roy Orbison 45 sitting on it. And I'm looking at it going, oh my God, this is where they were listening to music. And I mean, I'm just so inspired. So I sang that whole Bastards Bill record on a Saturday and Sunday. I did 11 songs. And then I left, and I said, we got to mix it and give it to Frontiers, turn it into the pipeline, you know? Mm-hmm. So it was a really quick process. It was different than the other thing. You know, I think I might've went back on one day. I think we were doing some backups or something that I scrolled back down there, but that was it. You know, it's kind of like those takes. And then I would do a few takes on each song, and we kind of comp it together is what they were doing most of the time, just to make sure I had a good pass. But it was so fun. It was so inspiring. We loved it. The record was really fun. We wondered if people listened to that record. We put out Rose of Jericho and Silence the Sirens and Son of a Prodigal Son, but we don't know if they heard things like Lights Up the River or some of those kind of songs.
The Sons of ZBD's, great tune, man.
Yeah. It was so fun, y'all.
Like the only song from Tora Tora that I can hear any influence of Eddie Van Halen, because if your names come is City of Kings.
Oh yeah,
that's the only place where I hear guitar wise. It's a total.
Oh yeah, tip of your hat, yeah.
Totally, you know.
Keith was he loved Randy Rhoads, but he did love Eddie Van Halen. He loved those guys.
Oh yeah.
But he had a lot of influences. He and Patrick loved Iron Maiden. They actually, it almost was like a 5-piece band. He and John, the drummer, had a band before Tora Tora, and it was called Lycanthrope, like the werewolf.
Yeah.
It was super heavy.
Got it.
And they had 2 guitars, kind of like Judas Priest and
Maiden,
And Patrick ended up picking up the bass. It was him and John and Patrick had started. And when I first met them, y'all, I mean, we were little kids, but I thought they were really seasoned. They were a couple of years older than me.
Right.
Gone into some studio at a high school or something. They played some really, beat up little honky tonk in the middle of town. And so I was like, oh man, these guys are the real deal,
Right.
Never forget it. I went over there. Patrick met me at the mall and he said, do you want to come audition for our band? I was singing in a little neighborhood band. And I said, I was freaked out. I was scared. I said, oh yeah, I'll come, And then I was like, what a dumbass. Why did I tell him I'm coming over? So I went home and I got my acoustic and I said, my aunt was a huge influence on me and she had worked on acoustic with me. And I said, I'm going to go over there and show them my singer-songwriter stuff. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to sing like Desperado from the Eagles or something and show my voice. Yeah. And I walked in and I got about, I don't know, a quarter of the way through that first verse or something. They go, man, that's kick ass. You know any Cheap Trick or Aerosmith? What about 21 Rush? He said 2112 by Rush. And I was done. I just went, oh my God, I think I can fake it. I think I get through.
Well, that makes sense that you can sing that
we
song.
We had about 10 songs that we learned, that first night. And I was faking the lyrics and, trying to, we had to listen to records and shit back then. We were trying to figure out lyrics.
Now, you had mentioned in another interview about your mom's side of the family, and this is very similar to the way that I grew up as a little kid. So my dad's side of the family is French-Canadian, so we had people who played harmonica, mouth harp, piano, acoustic. Like you guys had that same kind of vibe going on your mom's side of the family from what you said in an interview. And you thought that every other family was like that.
Yeah, I really did.
But so did I. So it's like
thing,
You don't.
And I think it was just we were out in the sticks, man. There was nothing going on, and that's kind of what you did to entertain yourself.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so longevity as a musician and a songwriter. What's your advice to people coming up?
Oh man, be yourself. I think that's a big one. It's easy to get caught up chasing trends, and I think the biggest thing of all is collaboration. We didn't collaborate at the very beginning with people. We were very protective, kind of our little circle of people. Mm-hmm. And I remember the song you were talking about earlier, Guilty. There was a guy named Tom DeLuca that came down from Nashville, and he was going to write with us. And we were like being little shits. We were like, man, who is this guy? He don't know anything about us. And he's an outside. He was kind of our first kind of introduction to somebody away from us.
Yeah.
And I think John and Patrick went and left to go next door to the, Mexican place or something. And Keith and I said, let's just go talk to this guy. Just introduce ourselves. And we went in there, and because we went in there, we ended up working on Guilty. He already kind of had an idea, had the rhythm or the idea for the song or something. And we kind of just sat down and said, hey, let's kind of work on it. And that changed our whole, project, the band and everybody. We kind of had a weird taste in our mouth about it not being ours. It was somebody different. Yeah. And we kind of carried that a little bit. If I'm being totally honest with y'all.
Yeah.
We pushed back a little bit on it being a single and all that kind of stuff. Just because I think it was because we didn't have any experience and we felt kind of like we didn't have any confidence. We felt like, man, this is like instead of
felt weird about it.
Yeah, we just felt odd about it. But as you grow older,
right,
music is about collaboration, man. You learn so much about yourself. Even at the worst writing session you've ever had in your life, you learn something that you're good at. You go, well, I know what I don't want to do. I know I'm good better. And when I worked in music publishing up here, I learned it a lot. But from a different standpoint, from a business standpoint, but as a creative person, being collaborative with people, I think is the most important thing you can do. You learn so much about other people's perspective, their creativity, the way they approach melodies and music. And arrangements and all that. And what's so awesome about all this is you always keep learning. It never. I mean, I think that's why I love it so much. It's just something challenging all the time, man. Technology has enhanced it and made it where people are very accessible now.
Right.
So that's something that's good. But for somebody new that's up and coming, I think that's the biggest thing is just work with as many people as you can. Try not to be, I think there was that fear. I don't know. I mean, I guess I hear people saying it a lot now, imposter syndrome, but that's kind of something hard when you're, especially if you're an artist and you walk in a room with some songwriters, you're like, I want to be the guy that throws out the dumb idea. You know, I don't want to say this. It takes that crazy idea, the dumb thing that you say to get everybody to go, hey, man, what if we said it this way? And it changes the whole song. Like it goes somewhere like you never gone if you would have just sat there and put it in and said, I don't want to be the guy that, you know.
Yeah, like making a film or writing a book, you know, like I was always like, oh, hey, what about this? I didn't want to say, no, please say something because if it makes it better, great. Like there's nothing sacred here.
Yeah. I think collaboration
makes it better.
Creativity side is important. There is something to be said, though, about what we talked about earlier of people that are new that are coming in to realize that compositions and recordings are intellectual property and that owning them is important to your financial well-being.
Right.
You know? And you can go and do whatever kind of deals you want to and disperse that those rights to that thing how you want to. But there's a lot of power in having control over your own stuff. I mean, people are going through those things now, and especially with AI coming out with these things, you know, that's crazy to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, how many times was your mind blown reading? Because you worked in publishing for what 8 to 10 years, and you would see these things come across.
Yeah.
And as an artist, you must have been going, "Oh my God, what?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is it. You want to be able to protect your identity, your name, and your likeness, and your what you've been working on for so long. Like things, you know, when I heard it, it was Axl Rose doing a Johnny Cash song. You know, I heard that, and I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." I mean, from a technology standpoint, you go, "Oh my God, this is incredible," but then you go, "Oh my God, this is kind of too." It's,
right.
Wait a minute, that's kind of confusing, and like, how are we getting paid out of this, and how it's a, you know, from a business point, I guess is what I'm saying, but. Anyway, those are the challenges. So, but longevity, I think, has a lot because there's a ripple effect. You know, even from our band, we're just one perspective. I don't feel like I've got it figured out at all. But I mean, I could tell people some things not to do. But from our perspective, a long time ago with contracts and stuff, there was a ripple effect based on that agreement that we were doing. That sometimes you're thinking short term, hey, this is a great agreement, and this is a great payout, and this is awesome. But you don't realize that, hey, man, this is going to have a lasting effect that is way down the line from now, you know, that maybe you're not looking at. So I would tell people for longevity, number one, creativity wise, get as with many people as you can and be yourself. Just figure that out, man. They saw last night, I saw a thing on social media about Lenny Kravitz got an Icon Award. And he said it was you being what God had created you to be. And he said he got all kind of offers and stuff at the beginning, but he wouldn't settle. He wouldn't do something he didn't want to. So that's good advice for people, not to just paraphrase. I didn't say it the way he did, but and on the business side, I would say for longevity to make sure that you always have a entertainment attorney, somebody that's looking at some kind of agreement when you're doing these, creating music and putting them on digital platforms and then licensing those things out and things like what is going on and who's actually collecting on all that. So I would talk about that probably.
But because it all circles back to that every person's powerful.
Oh yeah, it really is, y'all. I believe it. I really believe it. And you don't know how much people listening and watching on this thing, how much effect you have personally, just your sphere of influence and impact that you have on people's lives, man. People are going through these crazy times now and they're looking at you and smiling and they got some kind of battle inside their self going on that's with work or finances or family.
Hey, we feel totally privileged if people take time. Like we have a lot of people listening in Ukraine. We feel totally privileged that someone who's getting bombed or someone who's in dire straits listening to me and Jason tell fart jokes and like that's the best best thing ever. People are like, oh, how much money you make? And I'm like, that's fucking rude. Number one. Number two, we save 5 people's lives just because they listen, man. And we're humbled by that, and that's all we could ask for.
Yeah. And it's worth it if you can just reach one person. It's worth
it. Yeah, just one. And a lot of people who don't create never understand that.
Yeah.
I was that only 4-year-old kid in front of the TV, and then that one performance from whoever, set me in a different course. You know what I mean?
Right.
But Anthony, I want to thank you so much for coming on, man. Totally love this. Couldn't ask for a better birthday present. I hope to have you. We hope to have you on again. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And you've been nothing but gracious. Your band has always been part of my soundtrack of my life, as well as Jason's.
And will continue to be. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Yeah. And next time you're in town, man, I'll definitely be there.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, listen, I hope you have a great birthday, and thank y'all again for giving me an opportunity to talk to y'all. I enjoyed it so much.
Thank you.
Well, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Anthony Corder. Good God, sorry. Anthony Corder of Tora Tora. Sorry, I had some bourbon.
That's okay.
Holy shit. So go to toratoramusic.com right now. Go check out their music, buy some merch, which will take you over to sports.
Yeah, Right Rock Sportswear. You can find us on there. And
absolutely.
Any of your social media platforms, we're on there, and it's us running it. So we talk to everybody. We love hearing from you guys. Remember quickly, the April 6th date, if you happen to see this in time, it's in Memphis at Minglewood Hall. I'm doing acoustic shows with Ted Poley this weekend. I'll be in North Carolina, so I'll see you out on the road. And more show announcements coming and new music coming from Tora. So we're all working on things. So
yeah,
man.
And also you have VIP experiences now available for your show coming up, correct?
That's right, man. That's right. You can hit us on a direct message on our social media, or you can go to toratorarocks@gmail.com, and we'll give you all the information you need.
Awesome.
Unbelievable, man.
Anthony, thank you so much,
dude. This is like, we've interviewed a bunch of people, but dude, this is like,
it's a big one for us.
So much, Anthony. You have no idea.
Thank you for having me, man. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and y'all take care.
Hell yeah.
You
so
too.
Now, so me and Jason are gonna get off here and go listen to some Tora Tora, like you should. And I have to say, like, listening your first album, Surprise Attack. Yep. Every track, dude, amazing. It's one of those things you never get tired.
It's the 35th anniversary this year. 35.
That blows my mind.
I can't believe it.
I know.
Unbelievable. Anthony, thank you, sir.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Take care, man. Later. Jason, love you, brother. We'll see you next week, guys.
All right. See you.
Take care.